So, hi again, everyone. Let's add some fintech case studies here to this gaming atmosphere. So, first of all, a few words about FX Pro. FX Pro is one of the leading and biggest CFD broker. We have clients around the world, 2,000 plus instruments in 7 asset classes like Forex, crypto, indices, and so on. We have a few offices and a lot of international awards, and we're fully covered by SciSec and other licenses. A few words about me and our team. We're working with all the main sources, and the biggest one in terms of volume and the quality of traffic was always and stays Google. I would highlight that also. Basically, I have 9 years of experience, almost 5 years working in FX Pro. Um, So a few words also about UAC basics before I go to creative performance and also before I go to iOS topic. So UAC, for those who haven't worked yet with UAC campaigns, I'm sure all of you worked, but UAC has a huge coverage of placements. So we fully cover basically Google Search Network, Display Network, YouTube, AdMob, and so on. And you don't have variety of settings because it's kind of black box campaign, but you still have a choice to bid towards installs, in-app actions, and even TROS for Android. In terms of iOS, it's something that we whitelisting now and looking forward to test it also. You have an option to choose location, languages, and of course, creative sets. I would say that this is the main topic here. The main benefits, it's simple to launch and easy to scale, really good quality of traffic, especially in compared to app networks where sometimes the fraud rate can be up to 95%. Here we have really good quality of the leads and quality of traffic. Moving towards iOS. So basically, why do we still keep our iOS campaigns? I know that not a lot of companies still have an iOS. So first of all, when post-DFA happened like 2 years ago, we, of course, it was a challenge. We didn't know how we're gonna work with iOS campaigns later, but definitely we didn't want to shut it down just because the average revenue per user is usually much higher. As Dmitry already mentioned that, of course, it depends on geo, but in some countries it's like double in compared to Android. And also LTV is higher, and these users usually deposit like 3 months plus. So we definitely didn't want to stop these campaigns. So I would say that our decision was to keep like 30% of our budget for iOS campaigns versus 70% for Android. Here I'm talking about Google. And of course, the traffic and leads quality, again, is better for iOS. Usually, even if on account level you go to placements report, you can see all impressions, but still you can see what kind of placements you get in there. And in terms of leads, I will also mention that the conversion rates through funnel is usually higher also. There is still a limitation of 8 campaigns per app for iOS in Google. Basically, how do we approach this? There are 2 options. You can combine your countries by like tier combinations, so like Europe, Latam, let's say Asia, Africa, and so on. Sometimes we do it different way. We do it based on TCPA, but again, depends on the disclaimers we need to combine, like type of creatives. Most probably this schema will be working better. And we always keep 3 or 4 top countries separately where we can test like our bonuses, vouchers, some local elements, which works really good. So we always keep these campaigns separately. Moving towards creatives topic, I would say that it's really important to have one ad group with always, I would call it like evergreen creative, something generic like we have it here. Then also we have some economic events, creatives, inflation, volatility. This is something that will boost the user to deposit and trade right now, right here. Playable ads is something that worth testing for sure, especially in other placements. In Google, it didn't have enough impressions, but still worked. And the main part of creatives, I would say, is in fintech is to test as many local elements as you can. It can be flag, it can be country mention, it can be some like local payment methods when you mention Like for South Africa, we mentioned the local currency. So as more elements you can add, the higher your conversion rate will be. It's not in terms of iOS, it's in like general recommendation, I would say. So of course, moving towards video, I'm sure that for gaming is the best, like the biggest inventory. In fintech, it's also very important. And I would say that again, we have one evergreen generic video. I'll play it now.
The ultimate all-in-one trading app from FX Pro. Fast registration, hundreds of CFDs, 24/7 support, a world of trading at your fingertips. Download now and trade on the go like a pro.
Then we have some local promotions. We really put an accent on it now just because it really performs well and we finally deal with our compliance in non-European countries. So like fintech guys know how big is the compliance pain for US specialists. So here is the example of local promo that we have specifically for Thailand with vouchers. And another topic is, as I already mentioned, that really creatives that as much as you can localize that will really perform in terms of videos the same story. And in terms of video, you can also run some A/B tests when you have voiceover versus music. So again, best practices is usually to have voiceover, even though we had some cases where we saw that with music we had higher performance. So again, up to test. I'm sure in gaming you have tons of creatives to test. So it's also like another idea. In terms of UAC campaigns, general recommendations, again, for both Android and iOS, to keep an eye always on your budget and be careful with it. So in case you need like to decrease your budget 2 times, do it gradually, not in one day. Otherwise, you'll just break the machine learning and your performance will go down. Then always like keep an eye also on installs, best practices and in-app events, best practices, which is 50 and 10 for in-app events. Then beats also, it's something that you can play around. And once you increase your TCPA, even if your campaign is limited by budget, you usually will boost a search or a video inventory. Then it's really important to have clear creatives, especially sometimes it happens when we translate from English to local languages and the meaning of creatives just like gets lost. So we had for some geos, for some creatives, we had cases where we had a lot of leads that were looking for loans. So we had to deal with it. And of course, we usually know from what creatives we get it. And then it works to check your placements and categories. You can exclude that. In our case, we excluded loan category, which wasn't relevant for us, obviously. Moving forward to AS topic. So basically, no one knows 100% how to work with it. We're not the exception, but here's our approach to these campaigns. First of all, some details about iOS, how you can track it. So I would highlight the 2 main options, which is Google conversion modeling versus SCAD network. SCAD network, in our case, we have Upslayer MMP. And also Google conversion modeling has usually more data. You see more conversions, but I would say something in between. These 2 models will be more realistic, and usually we know the percentage of discrepancies. And later I will show you a few slides about that also. Keep in mind that Scan at least 3.0 doesn't track all the inventory in terms of search traffic. There is always delay in reporting about 3 to 5 days. Still no TROS bidding. Meanwhile, we're waiting for this beta. 8 campaigns per app, as I already mentioned. And for scan funnel, you need always to choose biddable events. Basically, something that most probably will happen to in this 24 hours window for now, for 3.0 at least. And usually it's like in our case, it's usually high funnel events like first or second step of registration, while for Android, we can massively like optimize towards purchase and TROAS. For iOS, unfortunately, at least with 3.0, it's not possible. A few words about discrepancies. Why they're happening, why do you see different picture for Google modeling and SCAD network. So basically WebTop measurement is not available for SCAD network, at least 3.0. For 4.0 is going to be working for Safari browser. Conversions windows are also set up for SCAD. Meanwhile, for Google, you can set it up on your MCC level or account level. Redownload definitions are also different, and older version of iOS will be just absent in your SCAD network. How do we work with iOS campaigns? Basically, again, when it just happened, we didn't know what to do. And then we shut down a few geos. Of course, we had to choose only 8 campaigns and to choose from geos, what are we going to keep, how we're going to combine the countries. And what happened? Basically, some countries we just shut down. And also we had the case with one of the top country when we had a huge disapprovals for 3 weeks. And we saw a 30% drop in organic. So this is how we basically found out the correlation between organic and Google Ads. I will show you later a slide about that also. Then, as I already mentioned, it's better to choose high funnel events. So you feed your campaigns with some, I would say, realistic data to optimize for. Combination of countries I already mentioned. What else you can do is instead of choosing targeting the whole country, you can target specific areas where you know that your clients most probably will deposit, like we did it in Indonesia, for example. There are some regions where we basically bring in, I would say, empty users, and some users are really deposit a lot. So this is what we did, like just some separate areas. And of course, always apply your Android best practices. Yes, it's not always gonna work, but in terms of localization, in terms of creatives, I would say that usually there is correlation between Android and iOS. And here is one of the example. This creative boost our FTD for Android. I would say dropped CPA 2 or 3 times. Depends on placement again. It worked both for Google, for Meta, and other placements. The success of this creative, I would say that we added basically money element, we added element of local payment methods, we added local currency, and our minimum deposit, we also dropped it from 100 USD to it's like around 10 to 50 USD. And the same we did with video. We just did variations of these creatives, like with different visual, with different content. So when you have really like good creative, it makes sense to prepare the variations of it and boost your campaigns. Here is, I would say, the most interesting slide about iOS, and here is our correlation between UAC IOS campaigns and plus organic. So here is how we found out basically how it works. So once our UC campaigns go down, we see exactly the same trend for most of top geos in organic traffic, and you can see that for users in installs, it's usually like the same day. For registrations, it's a bit later, like a few days later. And here is one country, and here is another one. For second one, we didn't have enough registration, so basically there was no clear trend. But you can clearly see the effect on organic traffic. And just some extra ideas how else you can, I would say, like work with not directly iOS and UC, but somehow have an influence on these campaigns. First of all, make sure that you have your on-device conversion measurement. If you work with advanced matching for Meta, if you work with enhanced conversion for web traffic, it's kind of similar. That will give your campaign more signals and more transparency to optimize for. Regarding the custom product pages, as we already heard today before, it's something that might really boost your conversion rates and other metrics and conversion, basically conversion to install. Again, it's something that we can't test for UC campaigns now, even though we're waiting for this beta this year. We've tested it. We tested it a lot for Apple Search Ads and for Meta and for like a few other placements, app networks. And you can always test it and then just apply these best practices to your main screenshots. Like to usually, this is the work of, I would say, apps. ASO specialist, but again, this is something that like somehow you can push and boost your campaign performance. What else? Basically, you can create your custom window, marketing window before your ATT window is shown. I'm sure you saw it in a lot of apps. You can basically explain users why is it important to accept this window, even though most of them will not do it, but still, basically, it's kind of personalized ads for them. What we did 1 year ago, we noticed that we had a huge percentage, I would say half of users were just not determined. So these users didn't accept the window consent, didn't deny it also. So what we did, we changed the timing of this window. We were showing it after the first step of registration. So this way, like from about 15%, I would say that we had increased to 30% of after ad users. So this way we also increased a little bit our transparency. And some upcoming features, I think we'll have a presentation about this later, but we're really looking forward to Scan 4.0. For now, we don't see the point to move to 4.0 just because the systems don't work, our at least systems that we work with don't recognize these 3 postbacks. They don't recognize all these new features, but basically, we all move into GA4. We move into SCAD network integration with GA4, 2 tier OS tests also for iOS, and custom product pages in UAC. So really looking forward to get more transparency on iOS this year. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria, for the great presentation. I think we can ask one question, and then maybe we'll do Q&A at the at the end of all 3 presentations. So so maybe the question around how do you choose the best event for TCPA campaigns, for example?
Yeah, I would say that it's again something up to test. In our case, it's usually like events that we're getting enough. So as I mentioned, it's first step of registration. So the more data you have to feed your iOS campaigns, the higher chance to get it done the best way. So yeah, it's something usually high funnel, and it's up to test in yours specifically for your funnel.
Or maybe one more, what conversion window do you recommend on Google Ads?
I would say that we run some experiments on that, not for iOS, again for Android. But anyway, we decreased at some point window from 90 days to 14 days for the event that happened really fast, I would say. This way we gave, I would say, we pushed the campaigns to get the higher, the faster data, the users who will do this event faster. So it's up to test, but I would recommend to do it depends on your event. So let's say in registration happens the same day, it makes sense to do to create a really short window. If first deposit for us happens in 1 week, so it doesn't make sense to do a really small window. It usually at least 2 weeks. So it depends on your event.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation.